All right, good afternoon. I'm Texas Storm Chasers Baldy-in-Chief David Reimer. We begin our live tornado coverage this afternoon on the Wednesday, 30th of April, 2025. We have our first tornado warning of the afternoon. This is going to be for a thunderstorm south of the DFW Metroplex here in Hill County. This is going to be a possible tornado southwest of Covington, northwest of the city of Hillsborough. This is actually going to be a very strong-looking circulation that has developed now. This is going to be coming up to FM 171, or Highway 171, and let's get some roads on here. And this storm is going to be moving northeast. This tornado warning does include Covington, Itasca, Carl's Corner. Technically includes the city of Hillsborough, but I'll be honest, it really looks like this storm's staying northwest of Hillsborough for now, but we do need to watch that cell. That is a little closer to Hillsborough. So this possible tornado is going to be near County Road 1364 in Hill County, moving towards County Road 1355 and 1458. It's a pretty impressive looking circulation with this thunderstorm that is near the outflow boundary generated by this morning's thunderstorms that are currently located north in portions of North Texas, the DFW Metroplex. So this is going to be a tornado warning moving off to the northeast at about 40 miles an hour. This is near Covington, moving northeast at 40. So this storm is moving towards Mayfield, Lovelace, Woodbury, and Peoria. And there's technically two storms with two circulations here we're watching. One is closer to Covington, one is closer to Hillsborough. And it's going to be this one near Hillsborough, northwest sides of Hillsborough, that I think is eventually going to become our main issue here. And that is going to be moving northeast towards Carl's Corner. We also have a circulation up here, southwest of Covington, that's going to be moving northeast towards Itasca and Carl's Corner. It almost looks like this storm has actually turned right. What we're going to do is, just for simplicity's sake, let's go ahead and take a peek at the statewide radar. And the reason I want to do that is just to give you a glance at what's going on. DFW, the severe weather threat's over. That line of storms that we thought might stop or not develop at all, well, clearly, as expected, somewhat, it never stopped, and it continues to move southeast. So DFW, you're in the rain-cooled air. It's 60 degrees. You're not dealing with severe storms this afternoon. If you have any storms later, it's going to be just for some hail threat. Tornado threat is going to be in parts of northeast Texas, eastern North Texas, and probably down here into the northern Brazos Valley and southern North Texas. And we have a new tornado watch that's just been issued. I'll show you that real quick. It's going to be in the yellow box here. Let me turn off satellite to show you. This new tornado watch does include southern North Texas, the Brazos Valley, and East Texas. This does include places like Hillsborough, Waco, Temple, Belton, Cameron, Bryan, College Station, Navasota, Brenham, Huntsville, Madisonville, Crockett, Palestine, Athens, Nacogdoches, Lufkin, Henderson, and we also have a tornado watch in effect for all of northeast Texas. But again, all these storms right now are behaving except for the thunderstorms in Hill County. We're also going to need to watch this storm southwest of Clarksville, east of Cooper, just in case. But for now, we're here because we have couple of storms that have gone into rotation just northwest of Hillsborough. That's going to be moving off to the east-northeast. Circulation is approaching Highway 171 near County Road 1341 here in Hill County. If we have a tornado develop here, it is likely going to be moving east-northeast towards Carl's Corner and the Interstate 35W intersection split off with 35 north of Hillsborough. That means those of you at the Buc-ee's here, north side of Hillsborough, you need to be taking your tornado safety precautions. This possible tornado will be moving very near the Buc-ee's here in north side of Hillsborough. Tornado itself looks to stay north of the city of Hillsborough, but it will be moving towards the Buc-ee's and Carl's Corner. I-35, where it splits off into W and E, the potential for a spin-up tornado. So, as that continues, those of you in north side of Hillsborough, Carl's Corner, Technically, Itasca and Covington, you need to be moving to your safe place. That'll be the lowest floor, center room, away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Hard sole shoes and a helmet if you got one handy. So that is why we're here. I'll go ahead and put this on a loop. Let's see, was that an update? Yes, it was. At 1:07 p.m., a possible tornado was located just north of Hillsborough, approaching the Buc-ee's north of Hillsborough. This storm's moving northeast at 40 miles per hour. This dangerous circulation will be near Itasca, Carl's Corner, and north sides of Hillsborough over the next several minutes. So again, it's as if we have a tornado. We'll switch back over to the which way the wind's blowing mode. Again, it's messy. I mean, there is some obvious rotation here coming up to 171 north of Hillsborough, but I don't want you to think that by any stretch of the imagination this is what we would consider to be a guaranteed uh-oh spaghetti-o moment. This is not. This is one of these little circulations with the potential for a quick spin-up tornado here on the north sides of Hillsborough. We have no ground confirmation we have a tornado down. We are just monitoring the potential for a quick spin-up tornado here. Back up in the Metroplex, guess what? It is pouring, it is storming, and all these blue boxes up here are flash flood warnings. We have flash flood warnings from Jacksboro to Greenville, from Weatherford and Mineral Wells to almost Terrell, from Granbury and Glenrose to Cleburne. And guess what? We got a lot of street flooding. Creeks, streams are above their banks. And the major rivers and tributaries are actually going to be going into probably moderate to major flood over the next week. We've got major river flooding already underway up around Wichita Falls. All that water is going to have to move downstream. So, reason we're here now is a tornado warning for Northern Hill County. This does not include the city of Hillsborough, technically, but it does include the Buc-ee's up on the north side of Hillsborough, Carl's Corner, and Itasca. Covington, you're clear in my opinion. So Covington, I'll give you an all clear. Itasca down to Carl's Corner, and the Buc-ee's on the north side of Hillsborough, you're going to want to be in a safe place. That'll be the lowest floor, center room, away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. And perhaps if we are fortuitous, we might be able to get rid of this tornado warning relatively quickly. But again, we have an outflow boundary moving south from thunderstorms up in the Metroplex, so as this storm interacts with that boundary, we could see a quick spin-up tornado anywhere from near Itasca down to Carl's Corner, the north side of Hillsborough near the Buc-ee's, as this storm interacts with the boundary and begins moving more to the east versus north-northeast. So with that being said, I want to say hello and good afternoon. Thank you, Tasha, for that generous super chat and donation. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Jeremiah, as well for that. We definitely appreciate it. And welcome, Patty. Thanks for becoming a member. We are keeping an eye on all these storms, but again, the only storm right now that has a warning in terms of tornado, wind, or hail is this storm passing near the Buc-ee's on the north side of Hillsborough up 35 towards Carl's Corner. So all the other storms we have right now, while we'll be watching them, fortunately, this is just a lot of heavy rain right now. Lightning, some strong winds. We'll switch back over. I'll show you the statewide view with the satellite. The severe weather threat for the DFW Metroplex is done, in all likelihood, in terms of any tornado issues. That's because this cluster of storms, everyone thought it would die out this morning and quit moving. It didn't. Not a surprise, honestly. So DFW, instead of having a tornado threat this afternoon, you've got temperatures in the 50s and flooding. So that has shunted the threat farther south into parts of southern North Texas, the Brazos Valley, and maybe parts of East Texas this afternoon. Up here in the Arklatex, you can see these storms from Clarksville back to Emory are still moving northeast at a pretty decent rate. This activity, we'll see. I mean, I can't rule out a few tornadoes in the Arklatex this afternoon if those storms are able to organize, but if they don't, you might just get some of the same stuff the Metroplex has gotten, which is lightning, gusty winds, and heavy rain that could cause some flooding. But we'll need to keep an eye on these storms from Clarksville down to Johntown to Mount Vernon to Yantis, just in case they try to start pushing out some stronger winds or show signs of rotation. So with that in mind, for folks that ask about DFW, now those of you who were here when I said that will be able to answer their question. So let us get back to it. And here at 1:20 p.m., we'll take a look at the high-res rapid refresh model, and we'll take a look at the timing elements for later. But let's get back to the reason why we're here, and that's going to be a tornado warning here in Northern Hill County. This thunderstorm is now on 35W, moving northeast at about 40 miles an hour. If we had a spin-up tornado, it is probably near Carl's Corner now, north of Hillsboro. Hillsboro, you're clear from this. I don't think you're going to have an issue along and south of Highway 77 and I-35E. We still need to keep an eye out, though. You may have more storms coming in from the south later. Let me be clear about that. This specific storm isn't an issue. All these storms developing near Waco, we're going to have to watch those. Those are farther south, and if they go into rotation, well, they could pose a problem. But for now, they're not. It's just this one storm near Carl's Corner up to Itasca that did a quick spin-up on radar here. But that signature is not as impressive as it was, thankfully. But we're still going to need to keep a close eye on things with this activity as we continue to monitor thunderstorms moving off to the northeast. This cluster of activity in the Metroplex is moving east-southeast with heavy rain and flooding. The severe weather threat for DFW, it's very low at this point and is not expected to really increase. Same thing for Terrell, Sulphur Springs, Clarksville. If you're west of a line from Clarksville to Sulphur Springs to Canton to Waxahachie to Cleburne, there really is no severe weather threat in terms of tornadoes at this point for the day. You've got rain-cooled air, and that has allowed y'all to be stable. Now you've got heavy rain, you've got lightning, you might get some small hail and gusty winds, but not really a issue with a tornado threat. So this line of thunderstorms has really kind of messed up today's severe weather setup, thankfully, for y'all in North Texas. Otherwise, we could have had issues. But for now, we are dealing with a more of an isolated severe weather threat. And we have the possibility of a spin-up tornado and maybe some strong winds near Carl's Corner to just around maybe the Buc-ee's on the north side of town. That eventually is going to be moving towards Milford and Mertens. At this point, I don't expect them to extend this tornado warning into Ellis County. Now, could they? Sure, but the rotation signature really is not that impressive anymore. I think this storm may be what we call undercut by the cool front or outflow boundary, the rain-cooled air moving in from the north. That boundary is moving south. But what we're going to have to watch now is all these little storms firing up down here, south of that boundary, that are moving northeast. Any one of these showers and storms could go into rotation and potentially pose a threat for a couple of tornadoes over the next hour or two. That's not what we're seeing right now, but again, we have plenty of wind shear, so we're going to have to monitor this activity over the next few hours. Same thing, by the way, is in effect for East Texas and Northeast Texas. We have a tornado watch now all the way out here in the East Texas. I'll turn on the watches on here so you can see what I mean. And again, these yellow boxes, that's your tornado watch. Tornado watch now goes until 8 p.m. for the Brazos Valley, southern North Texas, and parts of central Texas and East Texas, along the north of a line from Killeen, Fort Hood, to Cameron, to Brenham, to Huntsville, to Lufkin, to the Toledo Bend Reservoir. Everyone north of that, east of a line from Killeen to Hillsboro to, for all intent of purposes, Clarksville, is under a tornado watch for the remainder of the afternoon into the early evening hours. The threat of severe weather in the DFW Metroplex is pretty much done. Now, it's flooding. That in itself is a hazard, but the cold, or all the rain this morning has ended the threat in DFW. If you're wanting to know about storms in your part of the woods, and I'm not talking about it, that's a good thing. We focus on the most intense storms here during live severe weather coverage on the Texas Storm Chasers. But you can track the activity in your area with the free Texas Storm Chasers mobile app. Just search for Texas Storm Chasers where you download apps for your device. You can get your local weather forecast, interactive weather radar, live severe weather coverage, and more. Just search for Texas Storm Chasers where you download apps for your device. And you can also view our interactive weather radar on our website at texasstormchasers.com/radar. All right, let me check a few things. And again, the reason we're here right now is we have a tornado warning for far northern Hill County for a little circulation near Carl's Corner, moving off to the east, northeast towards Milford and Mertens. Hillsboro, you're clear from that. I'm not worried about y'all in Hillsboro or Mertens at this point. Or excuse me, those of you in Mertens and Milford, you're going to have to keep an eye out. I'm not worried about those of you in Hillsboro at this point. So Hillsboro, you may have more storms later, but you're doing okay for now. We continue to watch this thunderstorm as it moves off to the east-northeast from Carl's Corner. I will admit, it is starting to show a little more of a structure to it. It might just be straight-line winds, but wind is wind. Doesn't really matter if it's a tornado or not. Make sure this is the live stream I'm looking at here. And it is. So, those of you in Carl's Corner up 35E towards areas just southwest of Milford, you could be getting some pretty strong winds right now. North sides of Hillsboro, you could be getting some strong winds too, but really, they're just not seeing much of a tornadic circulation right now, which is good. Hopefully, that means we'll be able to get rid of this tornado warning soon. The Weather Service has it going till 1:45, but this tornado warning is actually going to be moving out of the polygon here in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So, Hillsboro, you're clear. Itasca, you're clear. Covington, you're clear. And Carl's Corner, we'll be able to give you an all clear probably in the next 5 minutes, thankfully. Until then, Carl's Corner to Milford, we'd advise y'all to keep an eye on the sky. As we deal with this thunderstorm activity. All right, it's 1:20 p.m., so I said we'd take a look at the forecast for the rest of the day, so let's do that. We're going to switch over and take a look at a product called the High Resolution Rapid Refresh Model. And we'll load that up. And what this is going to allow us to do is see what is going on right now, but I want to take it back to 1 p.m. I just want to see how it's doing. Now, here's an issue. This model is way overdoing the thunderstorm activity ongoing right now. We do not have the severe storms underway in the Brazos Valley or Central Texas. So this thing's way overdoing it. So it may not be doing the best job of handling things right now. In fact, you can see it doesn't even have storms from Clarksville to Mineola. So I don't think we can use this, y'all. This model has no idea what's going on, unfortunately. So let's see if the North American model's doing any better here at 1 p.m. Nope. So as you can see, no model is doing well right now. So instead of me showing you what is going to happen, I'm just going to show you what's going on right now and verbally describe what I think is going to happen. This situation we have ongoing this afternoon isn't unusual in the sense of this line of thunderstorms outpacing model data. Once you get a line of storms that develops a pretty sizable rain-cooled air mass, it's pretty easy for that line of storms to just keep pushing east, southeast all day. And that's what's happened here. Most model data suggested this line would still be back near 35 in Texoma. Well, guess what? It's only 100 miles east of there now on Highway 82, coming up to I-30. This is going to be moving through Texarkana in the next probably hour. ending the severe weather threat in the Arklatex and Northeast Texas. So, I mean, even Northeast Texas right now, we're looking a lot better than we were. I think we're going to be watching along and south of I-20 this afternoon, from essentially Waco, Hillsboro, up towards Tyler and Marshall, maybe south, for any isolated to scattered severe storms. Because clearly this line of storms continues to push off to the east-southeast. When I say in some of my forecasts, crash the cold front, it's actually talking about a situation like this, where a line of storms develops, establishes a well-defined cool pool of, rain-cooled air, and just keeps pushing southeast, crashing through a severe weather setup and resulting in the whole severe weather setup essentially going into the dumpster. That's why we call crash the cold front. It's not what you want to see as a storm chaser. It is what you want to see as everyone else, though. So that's good news for everybody. That being said, the threat of severe weather still does exist this afternoon, and we still may have a few tornadoes in southern North Texas, maybe parts of East Texas, and I can't completely rule something out in the Arklatex, but clearly the threat is over for DFW. The threat is over for Paris. The threat is over west of Clarksville to Sulphur Springs, to Wills Point, to Waxahachie, to pretty much, Stephenville. Now, along and south of this line, it is warm, it is unstable, it is humid. And as such, we need to keep watching out for any of these little individual thunderstorms that are developing ahead or south of this line of storms as it continues to move southeast. All right, we just had a tornado report. Oh, that's probably not even a legit tornado report, seeing who it's from. So with that in mind, this activity, this line, is going to keep moving east-southeast over the next several hours, with still thunderstorms in DFW and North Texas, back where temperatures are in the 50s and 60s, but a much lower tornado threat and severe weather threat overall. Flooding? Yeah. So we'll need to keep monitoring this activity, and that's what we're going to keep doing. The line itself is going to move east, east, southeast through the afternoon and evening, while individual thunderstorms south of that line that you can see are trying to develop here in parts of central Texas, and we'll see if that reconnected it. So I actually don't have control of this computer right now, but if y'all can hear me, the good news is the tornado warning for Hill County has been canceled. So those of you in Hill County, the tornado warning has been canceled, which is good news for y'all. And yeah, y'all can hear me, y'all can see me, I just can't control the radar at this point, which is an interesting dilemma to have, but hey, it is what it is. I just got reconnected, so now it's okay. So, all right, so what you're looking at is we're monitoring this thunderstorm activity across southern portions of North Texas to see if we have any individual thunderstorms that develop south of this nasty cluster. The good news is, ladies and gentlemen, we now have no tornado warnings. The tornado warning has been canceled for Hill County. Now, are we going to have more warnings going through the afternoon across parts of southern North Texas, maybe East Texas? Sure. But like I was just talking about, this line of storms continues to surge east and south very quickly, way beyond what any weather model suggested, which has really messed up the severe weather outlook for today in a good way. The threat of severe weather in North Texas has drastically diminished. If you're in DFW, if you're in Paris, if you're in Clarksville, even the Arklatex, this line of storms heading your way, is not really showing any indications of intensifying. So if that continues, it's just going to be an ordinary day of thunderstorms with a lot of lightning, some strong winds, and a lot of heavy rain with flooding. Flooding is going to be a serious threat with this activity here in North Texas, Texoma, Northeast Texas. That's why we have all those blue boxes with flash flood warnings. Now, what we're going to have to do, though, is keep an eye out on this activity in southern North Texas, south of this line of storms, as these little individual storms try to develop and move north. It's possible we could have a few tornadoes today, but the good news is I think we are doing a lot better than what we could have been doing. Some of y'all are going to say this is a bust, and guess what? For DFW, these tornado threat, severe weather threat, yeah, it's a bust, because this line of storms moved through and essentially rained it out. But flooding galore, oh yeah. So that's good for y'all. But still, we do have the threat of a few severe storms in southern North Texas this afternoon and evening. Back to the high-resolution radar, we actually do have a bit of a circulation that has developed just north of Mertens now, here on the radar, with one of these little storms hitting that outflow boundary. You can see that hook echo here. It's a small storm. Switching over to the which way the wind's blowing mode, though, check out that little velocity couplet right there. It's possible we might have a quick spin-up tornado in progress just northwest of Mertens by maybe a mile. Again, this would be just northwest of Mertens. We might have a quick spin-up tornado. That would be there 1 second, gone to next, but we'll see if the Weather Service ends up putting a quick tornado warning out on that. But again, we might have a quick spin-up just northwest of Mertens. That's moving east-northeast, so either way, maybe some gusty winds, maybe a quick spin-up tornado with that. Just northwest of Mertens here in far northeastern parts of Hill County, moving into far northwestern portions of Fairfield County. Far northwestern portions of Navarro County. So we'll see. Might have a quick spin up there. Wouldn't be shocked if someone sends a picture in of a funnel cloud or something out of that later. Otherwise, again, all this activity continues to move off to the northeast. Well, these individual storms at least, developing from Waco to Hillsborough back to Hamilton. These individual storms are moving north-northeast. The line of storms up here, Ellis County, Terrell, all this is moving more east at this point. So the good news is, with that, we don't have any tornado warnings right now. So we should be able to take a quick break, but let's take a look back out. It's statewide view again, and you're going to see that, yes, we do have scattered showers and thunderstorms producing heavy rain and flooding that continue to move across eastern North Texas, northeast Texas, and the Arklatex. This line of storms is racing east-southeast with really there's no severe weather warnings for tornadoes or hail or wind in Texas right now. We have flash flood warnings out the wazoo across the entire DFW Metroplex up into Texoma, where we've got a lot of flooded roads. We've got, creeks and streams out of their banks, and rivers are going to be rising quickly. We have a tornado watch in effect through 8 p.m. this evening now for parts of central Texas, east Texas, and southern North Texas, where the highest relative threat for a few severe storms, capable of maybe a tornado or two, strong winds, and maybe some hail. But I'll say this, the severe weather setup is not looking great in terms of the forecast verifying across some of these areas. And this is thanks to this quick line of storms that continues to move through, bringing rain-cooled air, kind of cutting off the warm air and resulting in far less organized thunderstorms than we could have been dealing with at this point. But that does not mean the risk of severe weather is over. So we'll keep an eye on things here. And the plan of attack is we're going to come back here at 1:45 p.m. with your next severe weather update. Otherwise, we're going to keep the live streams going here on YouTube. And if you're watching us on Facebook or X, head on over to YouTube, just search for Texas Storm Chasers. or head to our website, texasstormchasers.com. You can watch our live continuing coverage there. But during non-tornado warning operations, what we're going to typically do is do updates about every 15 minutes. We'll talk for about 10 minutes, give you the current situation, the forecast, and then take another quick break. So with that, we'll be back here in 10 minutes with continuing live severe weather coverage here on the Texas Storm Chasers. Sooner if necessary, or if we get a new warning. So again, we'll be back in 10 minutes. Stay tuned. Hey, it is Baldy-in-Chief Texas Storm Chasers. David Reimer here, dyslexic but not forgotten. We've got a couple new severe thunderstorm warnings in the last couple of minutes. These are going to be for the potential of some strong straight-line winds being pushed out by thunderstorms that could exceed 50 to 60 miles an hour, and that's enough to cause some wind damage. So let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to go from east to west. First off, we'll start with the severe thunderstorm warnings that have been issued now for portions of northeast Texas and the Arklatex. This is going to be for the line segment extending from near Avery and DeKalb down I-30 towards Mount Pleasant. This line of thunderstorms is moving off to the east at about 55 miles an hour, so this stuff is cooking and booking across portions of Titus, Morris, Cass, Bowie, and Red River counties up here in northeast Texas. And again, the potential for some strong winds, heavy rain. Hail is not really looking like a big issue with this. There may be some pea to dime sized hail, but hail is not expected to be an issue. Taking a look at the wind velocities, you can see, yeah, it's pretty messy looking on radar. This is some de-aliasing issues. It's where the radar software where the radar is located, not on our end, is having issues determining the wind velocity and direction. So when that happens, it just looks like a bucket of literal spilled paint on the radar. But looking at the leading edge of this line, you can see we do have some kinks showing up now. These are where we have a little extra wind trying to push out. Southwest of DeKalb, we've got one that is north of DeKalb up here in far southeastern portions of McCurtain County, Oklahoma. And this line itself continues to move off to the east at 55 to 60 miles an hour. And we need to keep a close eye on it, some of these kinks out here, just in case they try to start pushing out, as that would enhance the potential of a spin-up tornado threat. With that being said,
a new flash flood warning has been issued for Ellis and Hill County in Texas.
we'll go ahead and take a look at a timeline on this. We'll put a storm track on this. Give me just a second. Again, they have this moving east at 55, which, I mean, okay. Assuming that speed's correct, this will be in DeKalb literally in the next couple of minutes. We're looking at about 2 to 2:05 in New Boston, about 1:55 to 2 p.m. in Naples, around 2:10 to 2:15 in Maud, and then about 2:20 to 2:25 in Texarkana. As this line of storms across portions of Franklin, Titus, Morris, Cass, Bowie, and Red River counties moves east at 55 miles per hour, the potential for localized winds of 50 to 60 miles an hour. That can knock down some weakened trees, tree branches, cause some power outages, and a lot of heavy rain, small hail, and cloud-to-ground lightning. So there's going to be a big old rain and wind maker up here as this line of storms moves off to the east at about 55 miles an hour. I'll go ahead and put a loop on this over the last hour, hour and a half, and you can see this line is moving east quite quickly. Crossing over Highway 259 right now from DeKalb down to Interstate 30. And down I-30 to Mount Pleasant. Behind the initial surge of thunderstorm activity, you can see we have additional rain continuing well behind the initial line. So it's going to be a rainy afternoon across northeast Texas. Southwest from there, line extends from west of Pittsburgh to Winsboro, Quitman, Mineola, to Canton. This section of the squall line is producing maybe some cloud-to-ground lightning, gusty winds, but nothing that is considered severe. To be severe, you need to have 58-mile-an-hour winds or higher, quarter-size hail or larger, that's 1 inch in diameter, and of course a tornado, none of which are occurring with that part of the line segment. Back into North Texas we go. We have a severe thunderstorm warning for this thunderstorm in southeastern Ellis County and northern Navarro County. This is for the potential of some straight-line winds over 60 miles an hour. We see some of those winds on Highway 34 near Bardwell. We could have some winds of 55 to 60 miles an hour making it down to the surface. That'll be moving east-northeast at about 55 miles an hour as well. Moving towards Ennis, Alma, Rice, M-House, and then eventually that activity will make it towards Grays Prairie in southern Kaufman County, Gun Barrel City, Toole, and the Cedar Creek Reservoir. out here by Gun Barrel City, Tool, Malakoff. And again, some strong winds with that. Looking back out, we have very heavy rain now falling across much of Hill County from Whitney, Lake Whitney, Whitney State Park, up Highway 22 to Hillsborough, to Carl's Corner, both I-35W and I-35E north of the split. We have heavy rain, cloud-to-ground lightning, strong winds possible, maybe 30-40 miles an hour, but flooding and flash flooding are expected. We do note flash flood warnings are in effect. I'll clear everything off this map except flash flood warnings. We know flash flood warnings are in effect across several counties of North Texas now. In fact, we're talking well over a dozen, and this includes the entire DFW Metroplex, including in areas where it has stopped raining. We still have a lot of water draining. Creeks, rivers, streams are all running quite high and fast, so please stay out of those. And the potential still exists. We could see some storms in DFW going through the afternoon with maybe some small hail. Gusty winds.
A new severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for Comanche, Hamilton, and Mills County in Texas.
All right, we've got a severe thunderstorm warning now. This is going to be on Highway 16, northeast of Mullen, south of Comanche, north of Goldwaith. This is moving northeast towards Gustine, Highway 36, northwest of Hamilton. This severe thunderstorm warning does include the city of Hamilton, up Highway 36 to Gustine, southeast of Comanche, for the potential of quarter to half dollar size hail, that is 1 to 1 1/4 inch in diameter, along with wind gust of 60 miles an hour. The storm's moving northeast at about 40 miles an hour. We'll put a storm track on it real quick. And this will have it crossing Highway 36 between 2:20 and 2:30 p.m. near Gustine with the potential of large hail. Highway 16 in the next 5 to 10 minutes with, again, maybe some quarter-size hail. We're not talking baseballs or tennis balls or even golf ball size hail at this point with these cells. Very different environment up here than the last few days. We're dealing with just a lot of rain, tropical moisture versus a plethora of, supercells dropping softball size hail. But if we end up with any semi-discrete storms down here in the Brazos Valley, Central Texas, even East Texas out ahead of this line of storms, the potential will exist for some of those to produce larger hail. As it is, though, we'll switch back to the statewide view. Here's a hint. It wasn't that. There you go. If you didn't enjoy that little 3D dimensional trip into motion sickness, I don't know what you will enjoy, but you can see again, here you go. I'm going to turn off the warnings, the flash flood warnings, because there's so many of them. But again, you can see, looking at satellite data, looking at thunderstorm activity, line of storms continues to move east across the Arklatex, northeast Texas, back into eastern North Texas, southern North Texas, with the potential for isolated thunderstorms developing south of this main cluster. And those would produce our relative highest chance for maybe a couple tornadoes, strong winds, and hail. But I want to say that's not a guarantee. The severe weather threat already has busted for the DFW Metroplex thanks to this fast-moving line of storms that move through and essentially stabilize the atmosphere. So instead of, tornado, hail, wind threat in DFW, you got flooding. And as this line continues to move east-southeast, that may be the main threat we deal with, flooding. But still, some of these storms are going to be producing strong winds, and we can't rule out a tornado or two. And that's what we'll keep an eye on for. But there's no doubt that this threat is what you could say is underperforming in regards to the severe weather threat. The flooding threat, oh no, that's living up to the issues we could be having, because we got flash flood warnings out the wazoo across much of North Texas. We got rivers up in major flood stage or about to move into it all the way across northwest Texas, Texoma. So the flooding threat will continue well after the rain stops over the next several days. So again, we have a tornado watch in effect for southern North Texas, East Texas through 8 p.m., the Brazos Valley, and we're going to have to watch for any of these little individual thunderstorms that can develop in parts of central Texas and the Brazos Valley this afternoon, to just in case they go severe with a threat of large hail, localized damaging winds, maybe a tornado or two. Otherwise, as this line of storms continues moving east across northeast Texas and eastern North Texas, we could see pockets of stronger winds mixed down to the surface, A lot of cloud-to-ground lightning, heavy rain with the threat of flooding, and a brief tornado can't be ruled out. So, we'll keep an eye on things here at the Texas Storm Chasers. We will continue to bring you updates. We're going to have our next update in 10 minutes. That's going to be 2:05 p.m., sooner if necessary. But again, DFW, just to rehash, your severe weather threat is pretty much over, with the exception of continuing to see cloud-to-ground lightning, some locally moderate to heavy rainfall, and maybe a bit of small hail. Remember, flooding is dangerous. Could be a lot of high water on roads. Remember, turn around, don't drown. And if you don't care about that, well, let's go this way. Turn around, don't flood out your vehicle. All right, we'll be back here in 10 minutes with your next Texas severe weather update, sooner if need be. We'll talk to you again here in 10.
I could never walk away if I was looking at your face. No, I'd never leave you. There was something about that night. All the lights, they'd fall on your shoulders. Sun sets the city on fire behind you. Someday I'll be looking back when we're older, saying that night was golden. You were so beautiful to me. Rain was coming down on the day that you left town. It's like the sky could tell. But I know that you'll be back someday. You had to go and find your place, and I had to let you. It didn't take you too long to know where you belong. You got on the next train. Said it was too hard to walk away. Had to come back and see your face. No, I'll never leave you. You said there was something about that night. All the lights, they fall on your shoulders. Sun sets the city on fire behind you. Someday I'll be looking back when we're older, saying this night was golden, and you are so beautiful to me. Walking down the street, putting your arms around me, thinking of all these memories. Our lives are full of days like these, and there's not a moment missed when I don't thank the stars for this. Take what you love and set it free. The love of my life came back to me. Now we're walking down the street, you're putting your arms around me, thinking of all these memories. Our lives are full of days like these. All the lights, they fall on your shoulders. Sun sets the city on fire behind us. I see it all the same way. Now we're older. Today was golden. You are so beautiful. Today was golden. You are so beautiful. Today was golden. You are so beautiful to me.
Ho, ho, ho. It is Wednesday. the 30th of April, 2025. I'm Texas Storm Chasers, Baldy-in-Chief David Reimer. We're monitoring a line of thunderstorms, making a mockery of the afternoon weather across portions of southern North Texas, East Texas, and Northeast Texas. This activity, for the most part, is mostly behaving itself. I want to make that abundantly clear right now. The tornado threat we were worried about earlier, I'll be honest, has not materialized yet, and I'm not sure it's going to. Does that mean the threat is zero? No. But let's be perfectly clear here. This could end up being one of these bust days, which is good. And I can at least explain to you why. And, some folks would be like, bust, you stink. Well, don't worry. Next time I'll do my best to direct the next angry supercell right to you and make sure you enjoy the ramifications of such unpleasant weather. But what we have right now is this line of thunderstorms that just continues to push east-southeast across northeast Texas, extending pretty much from near Hamilton to Valley Mills to west in Hillsboro to Rice and Ennis, up to Canton, Mineola, all the way through Mount Pleasant, Dingerfield, up to Naples and DeKalb. Some of these storms are producing winds of 50 to maybe 60 miles an hour. That's enough to cause some tree damage, knock some branches down, maybe take a few shingles off your roof, probably do some damage to sheds and stuff like that. And of course, if a tree branch or something falls on said shed, it's probably going to do a lot more than a little damage. Some of these storms also may have a wee bit of hail, especially down here west of Hamilton. That storm is over 50,000 feet tall. That could be throwing out some nickel to quarter size hail. But otherwise, the main issue this morning and early this afternoon by far has most definitely been flooding. We've got flash flood warning still in the DFW Metroplex, where we're getting rain and quite a bit of cloud-to-ground lightning still. So what we're going to be watching for is this line of thunderstorms that continue moving east-southeast. Now, in northeast Texas, this line's moving east at 50 miles an hour. You might note we have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for places like Mount Pleasant, New Boston, Naples, Texarkana, and that's because this line of storms is producing winds over 50 to 60 miles an hour in these areas right now. And as that continues, we're going to see those strong winds move across Boston, Maud, Sims, Douglasville, Domino, Texarkana, Marietta over the next probably 20 to 30 minutes. No hail, heavy rain with lightning, so probably some street flooding. Going back southwest, you can see line of storms now from near Pittsburgh to Lindale to Gun Barrel City. And that section of this line is not severe. It may have 40-mile-an-hour winds, heavy rain, and lightning. Back southwest, you can see we've got storms galore extending from near Corsicana, Rice, and Ennis on Interstate 45 to just north of Lacey Lakeview up to Hillsboro on I-35. I-35W, I-35E, it's raining through most of the Metroplex. And then back west, we've got storms extending back to Meridian to Gustine. This activity may have a little bit of hail, cloud-to-ground lightning, some heavy rain. Nearly all these storms are occurring north of the rain-cooled outflow boundary, meaning they are elevated above the near surface layer of stable air, meaning the tornado threat is very, very low with these storms. Some of them are producing strong winds, cloud-to-ground lightning, maybe a bit of hail. Now, what we're going to be watching for this afternoon, and this is not a guarantee to happen. In fact, it very well may not. We're keeping an eye out on all these little showers developing across the Brazos Valley, parts of central Texas, and East Texas. If any one of these little individual beans can materialize into an organized thunderstorm, we'd have a higher threat of tornadoes, really big hail, strong winds, but so far, that's not happening. We're having to wait for this essentially it's a little baby cold front to push southeast and use that lift from that front to spark off thunderstorms. And storms north of that boundary are producing heavy rain, lightning, maybe a little bit of hail, and gusty winds, but they're not going to be tornadic. So we're just going to have to wait and see if any one of these little individual showers and storms manages to get going. It is extremely humid across the Brazos Valley. It feels like a July afternoon on the Gulf Coast, that's for sure. Dew points are in the low to mid 70s. We've even got some locations showing dew points in the upper 70s. So it is extremely humid, muggy outside, and we'll see. East Texas, etc. A tornado watch does remain in effect until 8 p.m. here in East Texas, the Brazos Valley, and southern North Texas. Technically, Northeast Texas is under a tornado watch too for some rambunctious thunderstorms with those gusty winds. But again, we're not doing too bad right now. We're actually doing pretty good. We could be doing a lot worse. So what we're going to keep doing is we're going to keep monitoring thunderstorms through the afternoon. We're going to keep giving updates about every 15 to 20 minutes. We do note there is some thunderstorm development ongoing out in the Panhandle, eastern New Mexico. This is going to be an area that we're going to see storms develop over the next few hours with hail and gusty winds. They're going to move east towards northwest Texas this evening. We could have some hail and strong wind gusts out here in the Panhandle, West Texas, and eventually into northwest Texas this afternoon into early this evening. While this, for all intent and purposes, little baby cold front with thunderstorms continues to push southeast this evening with scattered to numerous thunderstorms along and behind it, but we need to make sure we don't get any individual storms ahead of it or we're going to have an issue with tornadoes. If we don't get any individual storms ahead of it, we're going to be A-OK. And you know what? It's going to be a less active day, but that is far from certain. And we can go from, less active to uh-oh real quick, especially since it only takes one storm. So we'll keep an eye on things here at the Texas Storm Chasers as storms will continue moving southeast and east towards central Texas, the Brazos Valley, and East Texas over the next several hours. We'll be back here at 2:30 p.m. with your next Texas Severe Weather Update, but make no mistake about it, we'll be back sooner if the need arises. You can keep track of these storms using our free interactive weather radar on our website, texasstormchasers.com/radar, or by downloading the free Texas Storm Chasers mobile app. Just search for Texas Storm Chasers where you download apps to your device. So again, we'll be back here by 2:30 at the latest, sooner if necessary. Until then, keep enjoying your music and your live warning and storm report audio feed.
of summer back south to wander. It's a chance to start again on the wing of remember when. All the plans that we made in summer, they are shining memories, calling to each other. Trouble disappear in your atmosphere. Falling
All right, good afternoon. I'm Texas Storm Chasers Baldy-in-Chief David Reimer. It's 2:30 on this, the final day of April in 2025. We're monitoring a line of thunderstorms moving across parts of northeast Texas, east Texas, into southern north Texas. This line as a whole is producing some strong winds, over 60 miles an hour perhaps, from near Lindale to Gilmer, up to Pittsburgh, up eventually towards Boston. And that activity is moving east at about 50 to 60 miles an hour. We'll take a closer look at that in a moment. Back southwest, we have a line of storms extending from Kemp to Corsicana to Hillsborough to Clifton to Hamilton. That activity right now is not severe. It is behind a rain-cooled outflow boundary, meaning that it is generally not expected to pose a significant severe weather threat. There may be some gusty winds, but flooding and heavy rain are likely to be an issue with this activity as it moves slowly to the, individual storms are moving northeast, the boundary is moving southeast. Of interest, though, over the last half hour, we're starting to see the more rapid development of thunderstorms south of the boundary here in central Texas into the Brazos Valley. This is going to be an environment where we're going to see an uptick in low-level wind shear over the next hour or two. And if these thunderstorms are able to mature, the potential will exist for them to become supercellular with a risk of very large hail, damaging winds, and maybe a few tornadoes. This is a conditional threat of them actually being able to mature. Right now they're just most are showers, a few are producing lightning, so they're thunderstorms, but they're not severe right now, and you can see most of those storms are moving off to the northeast. So with that, let's go ahead and, as promised, we'll take a look at what we have going on here. Line of storms approaching Texarkana now. We'll switch over to the which way the wind's blowing mode, see if we have any strong winds, and yeah, it's messy. There's probably some 50 to 60 mile an hour winds here in spots approaching Texarkana, from Leary to Maud to Marietta, Douglasville to Dangerfield to Lone Star. This activity is moving off to the east at about 55 miles an hour with not really any hail, but some strong winds. Could be enough to knock some tree branches down, maybe uproot some old or dead decaying trees. Otherwise, extending south now from Lone Star to Orse, west of Orse City to Gilmer, down Highway 155 to Interstate 20, back west to near Lindale and Tyler. We do have some thunderstorms capable of producing winds of 50 to 60 miles an hour. Not really expecting much hail. A lot of heavy rain and strong winds are possible. We're starting to see a few storms develop south and east of that cluster, though. We're going to need to keep an eye on those, just like back in central Texas. If we see any storms develop ahead of the main line, they'll be in an environment that does have some pretty decent low-level wind shear, and if they're able to mature those discrete cells ahead of the line, they could go into rotation, and that would obviously be a problem. But at this point, that is not happening. Back southwest, we'll take a look in North Texas. Again, all these blue boxes for pretty much all in North Texas are flash flood warnings where we have flooded roads, creeks, streams quickly rising out of their banks, and issues with all that. You can see for the most part this activity is continuing to produce heavy rain from Gun Barrel City and Canton, I-20 South Dallas, DeSoto, down 35E through Red Oak, Waxahachie, down to Hillsborough, I-45 from Lancaster, Seagoville, all the way down to Corsicana, and then we have a couple of more isolated storms west of 35 from Hillsborough, down 22 to Whitney, Clifton, Meridian, Morgan, Hico, Hamilton, and then some of these individual storms developing back where it's still quite warm here, southern McLennan County, down towards Salado, Bartlett, Rockdale, Round Rock. These are kind of these little isolated storms we're going to have to watch over the next hour or two, just in case they start trying to mature. And if that occurs, the threat of severe weather, including a tornado threat, would increase markedly. But for now, we're doing okay. It is worth noting, it looks like we may see a few strong to severe storms develop out here in West Texas this afternoon. I'm going to turn on satellite data just to show the towering cumulus out here. And as you can see, we've got some clouds, some storms trying to develop out here in the western panhandle, southwestern panhandle, West Texas, plains north to Muleshoe to Friona. This activity may be able to organize and could become a hail threat with maybe some even golf ball to tennis ball size hail as those storms move east at probably 30 to 40 miles an hour. With time this evening, this activity will move east of Interstate 27 and out towards Highway 83 from Childress, Paducah, maybe down to Highway 380 and make a run at northwest Texas this evening. So again, line of storms out west will move east. We'll switch back to the statewide view. And you can see that activity developing the western parts of the state with increasing upper level ascent or lift. And then we have some of this isolated thunderstorm activity bubbling up here in the Brazos Valley, central Texas and east Texas, which is what we're really going to have to watch for over the next couple of hours. That'll pose the highest relative threat for being tornadic or severe storms. It's not a guarantee, though, and hopefully they don't. DFW, you're done. In terms of, any significant severe weather threat. I know it's still raining, we got lightning, but this cluster of storms this morning blew on in. Severe weather threat's done for y'all. There is none, really, in DFW outside of flooding. And then across northeast Texas, the Arklatex, you can see we have storms quickly racing off to the east at about 50 to 60 miles an hour, bringing heavy rain, strong winds, maybe some locally damaging winds, and cloud-to-ground lightning. We're not really dealing with hail right now. We might have some pea to dime size hail with a couple of these storms, but as you can see, over the last 2 hours, they continue to race off to the east. Are generally southeast, so that's going to continue to be the trend going into this evening. Now, a while ago, I tried to show you the high-res rapid refresh model, and it was not doing well, so I wasn't able to show you. Let's take a look and see if the model has a better handle on what's going on now. This model is run every hour, so that's why I say we can check and see if it's handling what is going on now any better. We're going to load this model for 3 p.m. just to see, and no, you see, it is just way too far west, y'all. I mean, look, this is what the model thinks the radar is going to look like at, 4 p.m.? Here's 3 p.m. You can see that's what the model thinks the radar is going to look like in 20 minutes. And yet, if I turn the real-time radar on, I mean, maybe it's not doing as bad as I said it was, but storms are really running ahead of it in northeast Texas. So, I mean, I guess we can run it, see if it's going to do anything, but I don't have particularly high confidence in this, but still, we'll run it, at least give y'all a basic timeline, just understand the overall south and east progression of this, especially in northeast Texas, is not doing particularly well. But nevertheless, guess what? Storm's probably going to move into central Texas, the Brazos Valley, east Texas tonight. Austin, Bryan College Station, we could have hail, strong winds later this evening, late this afternoon into this evening, and eventually places like Jasper and the Golden Triangle, and even into southeast Texas. I'll load this data beyond what I had it at, so we'll see the timeline. And you can see, moving across southeast Texas, yeah, Houston, it's going to storm tonight, it looks like, between about 1 to 5 a.m. And I'll zoom out so you can see the stuff in West Texas and the Panhandle as well. So again, Lubbock, Amarillo, you might get some storms with hail and gusty winds in the next couple of hours. Those will move across West Texas, South Plains, the Rolling Plains, up and onto the Caprock and the Panhandle, and then eventually that activity will make it into parts of western Oklahoma, northwest Texas this evening before dissipating, while our storms underway right now in southern North Texas into northeast Texas will eventually begin building farther west and move south with vigor, with some of those storms producing hail this evening, strong winds, heavy rain, and flooding. Waco, Austin, Bryan College Station, Livingston, Nacogdoches, even Houston, y'all may get in on some storms this evening, tonight, and overnight with heavy rain, lightning, and the strongest storms could produce hail and some damaging winds. The tornado threat, I'd say this afternoon, is on the low side, but again, I'll switch us back to the real-time radar. We need to keep an eye on activity trying to develop here in central Texas and the Brazos Valley and East Texas, just in case one of these individual storms matures south of that main line of storms farther north. Remember, if you've watched our coverage before, we're always more worried about individual discrete storms ahead of the line, and the same would be true today. So if we get one of these storms to mature down here, for example, southeastern Bell County near Holland, we got some storms. We've got some storms northeast of Crockett near and southwest of Alto. Any one of these little storms, if they can mature south of this line, they'll have a lot of wind shear and instability to work with, so we're going to have to watch it carefully. Those individual storms are moving northeast, the line is moving southeast, and that'll continue over the next couple of hours. So, plan of attack is we're going to continue bringing you periodic updates here, and we're going to have our next one at about 3 p.m. Central Time, or 19 minutes. We'll be back sooner if necessary, but again, flash flooding, significant risk continues in North Texas, and we're going to have to watch and see if any of these little beans across Central Texas or East Texas mature, and if so, the threat of severe weather will increase. Otherwise, we're expecting some storms in West Texas and the Panhandle as well, with the threat of some hail going into late afternoon and evening. We'll be back here at 3 p.m. Central Time with your next severe weather update, sooner if necessary. All right, good afternoon. I'm Texas Storm Chasers Baldy-in-Chief David Reimer. It's 3 p.m. on the final day of April 2025. We're monitoring a line of thunderstorms capable of producing gusty winds, heavy flooding rainfall across parts of the Arklatex, East Texas, Northeast Texas, extending back into southern parts of North Texas. We'll go ahead and we'll stop the radar animation here. We'll take a look at these storms, take a look at the warnings we have. And we'll let you know what's going on. Once we take a look at the now situation, we'll take a look at what we expect into this evening. Here's the latest. Line of storms extends from near Texarkana to Domino, down to Linden, Ore City, down to Gladewater, Tyler, Athens. This line segment is warned for severe thunderstorm potential. We could have damaging wind gusts over 55 to maybe 60 miles an hour. Could have some winds like that approaching Douglasville, Linden. That's enough to knock down tree branches, maybe some decaying or weakened trees. Could have some power outages out here as well. Wind-driven rain, that's for sure. A lot of heavy rain ongoing with this activity. That line segment is moving east at about 30 to 40 miles an hour. This activity from near Hugh Springs to Avenger to Ore City to Winona, moving towards Tyler, Longview, Kilgore, is moving a little more slowly. This segment is moving east at about 30 to 35 miles an hour. Also, the potential for some strong winds of 50 to 60 miles an hour, heavy rain, maybe some very small hail. We're not really dealing with hail with this activity out here in Northeast Texas, East Texas, thankfully. So again, flooding rainfall, strong winds that could bring down some tree branches and cause some isolated power outages. That activity extends farther southwest from Tyler to Athens to south of Corsicana. We'll go ahead and switch over to the Fort Worth radar. To south of Corsicana, down towards Hubbard. We've got some storms down into McLennan County, and then the activity across Hill County, Ellis County, southern Johnson County. Notice the cluster isn't really so much a cluster once you make it southwest of I-35, so we're starting to see some scattering, some more individualistic thunderstorms behind an outflow boundary. Now, here's something we're going to need to keep watching for, and if you were here for our 2:30 update, you heard me talk about how we're watching to see if any of these little discrete storms south of the outflow boundary, kind of all out by their lonesome, we're going to be able to mature. And indeed, while the intensification trend has been slow, we are starting to see some of those individualistic thunderstorms try to become supercellular out here in portions of Falls, Milam, Eastern Bell counties. Now, there is nothing severe with this right now. We're just seeing an uptick in lightning. Visually speaking, if you looked at these storms, they probably look pretty cool. I'm sure we have some supercell structure, maybe some corkscrew updraft structure, or striations, cake layers almost. This activity as a whole is moving off to the northeast. These cells are at least north-northeast at about 30 miles an hour. And again, if they continue to intensify, we may start seeing some dime to nickel size hail. For example, the storm that is near Seaton, east of Temple, moving up towards Lott there on Highway 320. That storm is starting to show some indications of producing some small hail. And if hail sizes increase, we may see a severe thunderstorm warning issued for Falls County. Keeping an eye on this storm in northeastern Milam County, west of Calvert, moving up Highway 14 towards Hammond and Braymond. That storm's also moving to the northeast. And then we have some other activity as well into central Texas. But again, that's probably the storms we're going to have to watch most over the next while, as those are in the most favorable environment for producing severe weather, maybe a tornado threat if they're able to mature. Otherwise, again, some localized strong wind gusts across East Texas are possible. The tornado threat out here is low. It's not completely zero, but, I mean, there's been no indications that there's going to be a tornado issue anytime soon with that activity. The only real issue we're going to probably have with the tornado threat anytime soon, if at all, will probably be some of these individual thunderstorms here east of Temple as they continue moving northeast. But we'll see. So let's take a look now at the high-res rapid refresh model. We'll pop out to the statewide view, and we are going to have some storm chances in West Texas and the Panhandle going into the next several hours into early this evening from Amarillo to Lubbock. Those will move east to Lubbock, heading into northwest Texas this evening. Some of those storms have the potential of producing large hail. We'll take a look at that here. And again, I'm going to load this model from 4 p.m. through 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. We'll let the data load. And this is just to give you a sense of what we expect going into tomorrow morning. Now you can see this thing has storms in the Brazos Valley. It's being over-ambitious with the number of storms and their intensity in the Brazos Valley, and clearly is being slow with the eastward progression of the line across East Texas. So keep that in mind. The reason I'm just showing you this is to give you a situational awareness. This model seems to think we're going to have storms expand back west to 35 in southern North Texas this evening. Could bring a line of storms to parts of Austin, Bryan, College Station. If this is right, we could even see a few storms in Houston by tomorrow morning, with maybe some gusty winds, heavy rain. We note those storms in West Texas this afternoon into early this evening, moving east pretty quickly. The potential for some of those storms to produce large hail out there in western Texas as they move east towards northwest Texas this evening. Just a hail threat with those out west, maybe some locally heavy rain, gusty winds. Otherwise, this line of storms, if it materializes like this model shows, some gusty winds. We'd have to watch some of those cells on the western edge of that line in southern North Texas down to Austin this evening in the Brazos Valley for maybe some hail. Gusty winds, heavy rain. But clearly, today's severe weather threat has been underperforming considerably, and hopefully it'll continue that way. We haven't had tornado issues, really. We had maybe a brief tornado issue around Hill County earlier, but this fast-moving line of storms that has materialized and persisted through the day has really resulted in this being a bit of a bust in terms of, tornado issues, widespread hail and wind, but the flooding issues, we've had flooding issues out the wazoo across North Texas, and that's going to continue even after the storms stop. It's going to take a long time for the waters to recede, and we could even have some flooding issues out here in parts of northeast Texas this evening. As storms continue to try to build farther south, we may continue seeing some flood threat expand towards McLennan County and Waco over the next few hours. So again, in terms of the short-term severe weather threat, I'm really going to be watching these storms trying to develop northwest of Cameron, east of Temple, southwest of Braymond as they move north towards Limestone County, Falls County over the next 30 to 60 minutes. If they're able to intensify, threat for hail may increase. We may see a bit of a tornado threat as well. Otherwise, storms continue across northeast Texas and will expand into parts of East Texas over the next couple of hours with some strong winds, heavy rain, flooding, and lightning. The severe weather threat is over for the DFW Metroplex, though we still have pockets of thunderstorms producing heavy rain. And then back out in West Texas, we have the potential for some hail to develop over the next few hours with those storms. From south of Hereford to Morton to Brownfield, those will move across I-27 from Amarillo to Lubbock over the next couple of hours and then continue moving east quickly towards Childress, Paducah, and northwest Texas before dissipating. As always, you can keep an eye on the sky with the free Texas Storm Chasers interactive weather radar on our website, texasstormchasers.com/radar, and in the free Texas Storm Chasers mobile app. We're going to be back at 3:30 p.m. with our next severe weather update and forecast update, but if something happens before then, you bet your behind we'll be back before then. So, see you in about 20 minutes, sooner if necessary. I'm Texas Storm Chasers Baldy-in-Chief, David Reimer. All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go ahead and get back started here. It's coming up to 3:30 p.m. on the final day of April 2025. We continue to monitor a line of thunderstorms moving across the Arklatex, northeast Texas, with trailing thunderstorms extending back into southern North Texas. And now we have a supercell that has materialized near Bremen, south of the outflow boundary, in an environment that is supportive of severe weather. So we're going to have to deal with that, and we're going to talk about that shortly. Let's go ahead. We'll go from east to west, take a look at where our storms are now, what they're doing, and what we think they're going to do over the next few hours. So, radar data, here we go. Please load, and don't be mean to me. Here, let's just do this real quick. We're going to reset this program. Every few hours it needs to get reset because it develops a memory bug of sorts, or I just overload it. So, we'll load the data, say hello, press some buttons, and go ho ho ho. Here you go. You can see a pretty robust looking line of storms now, extending from Texarkana to Atlanta, Texas, back southwest to Jefferson there on Highway 59, to Longview, Kilgore, Tyler, all the way southwest. This line of storms is moving off to the east at about 30 or 35 miles an hour with the potential of large hail. Excuse me, no large hail. I'm used to saying that too much. The potential for some strong wind gusts of maybe 45 to 55, maybe 60 miles an hour. That's enough to knock some tree branches down, maybe uproot or knock down some dead, decaying trees. And some heavy rain that could cause flooding, a lot of cloud-to-ground lightning. And again, this activity is moving off to the east. Some pretty good winds up here from near Texarkana, Domino, Atlanta, down Highway 59 to Jefferson. Back southwest Longview to Tyler, these storms still capable of producing some strong winds as well, and heavy rain. As we transition back into southern North Texas, I'm going to switch over, press some buttons, and say hi, hi, hi. And we'll take a look at the storms ongoing from Tyler to Athens, back southwest through Kearns on Corsicana there on Highway 31. Flash flooding likely with some very heavy rainfall there. Those storms are not severe. They could have some gusty winds, a lot of lightning, and heavy rain. DFW, you're mostly clearing out now, but we still have a few storms with some rain, maybe some small hail. Eastern Collin County, southeastern Denton County, Dallas County, down through Ellis and Johnson Hill counties. Main issue, and something that we are going to have to watch extremely carefully now, is this thunderstorm that has developed near Bremen. Now, I was talking about now for the last hour how we're having to watch these open warm sector storms in case they evolve into supercells, and that is exactly what this thunderstorm here near Bremen has done. You can see we've attained supercell status, very potent looking thunderstorm. I'm a little surprised we don't have a severe thunderstorm warning on it yet. You can see it even has that little classic hook echo developing, and this storm's occurring in an environment of stronger low-level wind shear, and with that, the potential for severe weather is increasing for those of you downstream of this up in Limestone County. Places like Groesbeck over to Farrar on Highway 164, Thornton up to Coss or down to Coss, and eventually this storm may even make it up to places like Tige, Fairfield, from Limestone County into Freestone County. And I mention this because this is one of these little discrete supercells well out ahead of the line that has the potential to become a problem in terms of producing very large hail, damaging winds, and maybe a tornado threat in the next hour. So those of you downstream of this, or upstream, whichever you prefer, up Highway 1, what is that? That's not Highway, Highway 14, all the way up to pretty much almost to Mahia, but then Tige, Fairfield, Farrar. Up here, Limestone and Freestone counties, you need to pay a close attention to this thunderstorm as it moves northeast. You can see the radar believes we already have some severe hail with this, so we're probably going to see a severe thunderstorm warning issued soon for parts of Limestone, Freestone counties in southeastern North Texas. We'll zoom in, and we're not seeing any super strong low-level rotation right now, but that hook echo near Bremen is certainly evident. I have no doubt if you were outside looking at this right now, you'd probably see a pretty low wall cloud that looked pretty spooky just west of Bremen. We probably have hail falling on Highway 14 now. That'll be moving into Coss and Highway 70, or Highway 7 and Highway 14 in the next 10 minutes. And this storm is moving northeast at about 40 miles an hour. So those of you up Highway 14 through Thornton to Groesbeck, up in Limestone County, eventually up to Highway 84 between Mahia, Tighe, and maybe Fairfield, you need to be on guard for this thunderstorm, as it does have the potential to produce severe weather as it moves northeast into Limestone and Freestone counties over the next hour. Eventually, this will cross north of an outflow boundary. That outflow boundary, by the way, this is what you see right here. I'm willing to guess that's where it is. Once this storm makes it north of that line, it's going to be in a rain-cooled air mass towards the surface, which will help reduce the threat of a tornado, but it still may have very heavy rain, maybe some hail and gusty winds, but I am definitely concerned about this storm. You can see the latest radar scan, pretty well-defined hook echo now just north of Bremen, and I think we're going to stay with this. I am concerned this could try to put down a quick, brief spin-up tornado over the next little while. Even if we don't have a super-duper awesome, blossom, spooky, low-level velocity couplet, there's definitely concern with this in that it is showing increasing organization. It's in an area that has the potential to introduce a tornado risk, so we're going to need to keep a close eye on it as it moves northeast at about 40 miles an hour. So those of you in Limestone County around Thornton over to Farrar, and then eventually even maybe Freestone County from Teague to Dew, we're going to have to keep a very close eye on this storm as it moves northeast, with the potential for it to become severe and maybe even pose a bit of a tornado threat. All right, let's take a look at West Texas. We've got some storms developing out here that are going to pose a threat of hail as they move east. You can see we've got one storm over Anton and New Deal, Weston New Deal. This storm's probably producing at least nickel-sized hail, some gusty winds. These storms overall are going to be moving east at probably, 20 to 30 miles an hour eventually. And that means those of you on I-27, you may be dealing with some storms this evening, or over the next couple hours, really. And then those of you east of I-27 all the way out to Highway 83. Downstream of these, you have the potential to deal with storms this afternoon and evening, with the most intense storms possibly producing large hail, damaging winds, heavy rain. Not really thinking we're going to have a tornado threat out of these, but, well, here's hoping Mother Nature doesn't try to prove me wrong. So, with that being said, let's take a look at the overall expectations going into tonight with the high-resolution rapid refresh model. We're going to clear everything off the screen in just a second. We're going to change this upper third, and this is going to allow us to give you all a better idea of what we think is going to happen going into this evening. Now, this model is probably not running super perfect right now. It's been running slow with the eastward progression of the squall line all day, but we can at least, try to show what we think is going to happen. Data is going to load, and then we'll play an animation. But as that data loads, I can tell you now, you can see those storms in West Texas and the Panhandle making their way east towards northwest Texas over the next 3 to 5 hours before dissipating. The strongest of those storms could have hail. So heads up, Panhandle, West Texas, you may have some hail issues going into the next several hours before storms dissipate. As we take a look at the line of storms across northeast Texas, east Texas, southern north Texas, clearly it's running several hours late in northeast Texas. So with that caveat in place, understand that. But further southwest, it's not doing as bad with the storms around the Waco area. The southward progression of that is really stalled out. But even then, if it's running a little late with that, at least you can see this model is expecting storms to try to develop a bit further west. We may have some storms move into Georgetown, Austin this evening, and then make it through Houston late tonight into Thursday morning. With the most intense storms in that line, we may have some hail. We may have some strong wind gusts, cloud-to-ground lightning, and heavy rain. So that is the timeline for that. But again, as we take a look at what's going on right now, we're keeping an eye on thunderstorms in West Texas and the Panhandle developing with some threat of hail. And we're also keeping a close eye on these storms moving across portions of the Arklatex, East Texas, Northeast Texas with some heavy rain, some hail. Not really any hail, small hail, but heavy rain, some strong winds. And then I am really getting concerned about this cell developing now, just north of Bremen near Koss, moving into Limestone County south of Groesbeck. I think that storm does pose a threat of a tornado over the next 30 minutes or so. It very well may require a tornado warning if it continues to materialize and organize. Otherwise, storms from Waco to Corsicana, we have the potential for flash flooding. Maybe some small hail, gusty winds, but a lot of lightning, some flooding threat with that. So we're going to keep a very close eye on the storm from Bremen to Koss as it moves into Limestone County. Plan of attack is we'll be back here in 20 minutes with your next update if we do not have any new issues develop. But that storm near Bremen and Koss moving into Limestone County continues to organize. We'll probably be back in a few minutes with continuing severe weather coverage with that. But for now, we'll let y'all get back to the music, and we will keep a very close eye on these storms. And again, Limestone County, which is east of Waco, for that individual discrete supercell moving up from the Hammond and Bremen area, moving up Highway 14, moving towards Farrar, Buffalo, Dew, and maybe Fairfield over the next hour. We need to keep a very close eye on that. So we'll do that. We'll be back in 20 minutes, sooner if necessary, with your next Texas Severe Weather Update. Good afternoon. I'm Texas Storm Chasers Baldy-in-Chief David Reimer. It's 4 p.m. on this, the final day of April 2025. We're monitoring a few different regions of Texas for thunderstorms, ongoing and or developing. We've got a line of storms that has made its way through a majority of northeast Texas this afternoon. We've got that leading edge now well into Arkansas. We've still got showers behind it with lightning strikes, so technically stratiform rain and thunderstorms continuing across much of northeast Texas with some heavier rain ongoing. We've got the leading edge of that line of storms in Texas from Marshall to Tatum to Troop, south of Tyler, all the way down almost now to Jacksonville to Frankston, back southwest now with some thunderstorms in progress in southeastern North Texas, back from Richland down to Mahia down to Thornton, with some of those thunderstorms, specifically the one southeast of Thornton, showing some signs of being a little rambunctious. Storms from Tyler, White House, Bullard through Longview, Marshall, Jefferson, and northeast Texas on I-20 could be producing now. We might actually have some quarter-size hail out of that now, so a little bit more hail than we were talking earlier. Maybe some strong winds of 50 to 60 miles an hour. Back out in West Texas, we have thunderstorms that are producing some pretty impressive lightning and even a bit of hail. We've got a storm approaching Roundup and shallow water. That's showing indications now of producing quarter-size hail. That's going to be crossing Interstate 27 from Abernathy to New Deal. Those storms extend south to near New Home, down through southeast of Brownfield, and then all the way up to Nazareth, east of Dimmitt there on Highway 86. Up in Castro County. So, now that I've given you the verbal once-over, let's go ahead and zoom in. We'll take a look at more of what's going on. Again, this thunderstorm activity here in northeast Texas, you can see extends from near Hope, Arkansas, down towards pretty much Marshall, Longview, Tyler, Athens, Corsicana. We've got storms continuing behind the initial wave or line with moderate rainfall in a good chunk of northeast Texas, and we even still have a few storms that continue to develop back in parts of the DFW Metroplex, though y'all are on the back side of things. You're still getting occasional bouts of thunderstorms with some brief moderate to heavy rain and maybe even a bit of small hail. The only severe thunderstorm warning right now for Texas is going to be with the line from near Jefferson to Marshall to Longview, down to Tyler, Kilgore, Bullard, and White House. And there could be some quarter-size hail with some of those storms and a bit of gusty wind. Otherwise, we might get some warnings out in West Texas soon for hail. We were watching a pretty nasty thunderstorm that was trying to set up shop east of Thornton earlier. That storm looked good for a while, but it has since either hit the outflow boundary or moved just over it. So that is going to continue moving across. Limestone County is moving towards portions or communities like Farrar, and then it'll be moving into Freestone County from near Tige to Dew. That storm still showing a bit of rotation, but otherwise it just hadn't done anything. So it did drop some quarter to $half size hail on Highway 7 just east of Coss. We got some other showers and storms, a lot to Rosebud just east of, well, Georgetown. So, with that in mind, let's take a look at what we expect to occur this evening in the severe weather department across the state of Texas. And to do that, I'm going to clear everything off this screen, and we're going to load the high-res rapid refresh model. And this is just to give you all a sense of timing of what we expect tonight going into the morning hours on Friday. So I'm going to load this model from 5 p.m. through 6 a.m. tomorrow. And it'll play in sequential order here in a second. You can see storms in the Panhandle, West Texas will continue moving east pretty quickly over the next few hours, probably making it to near Childress by 8 p.m. They could be producing some hail, strong winds, lightning along the way before dissipating not long after 9 p.m. Could see a few storms up in the northeastern Panhandle this evening as well. Otherwise, thunderstorm activity here in parts of central Texas, the Brazos Valley. Looks like we're probably going to have a line of storms move through this this evening. We could still get some storms in Austin, Georgetown, even down towards Bryan College Station here later this evening. It may not be until after 7 to 9 p.m., but some of those storms could still be on the strong side with large hail, gusty winds, heavy rain. Activity looks like it will make it down into southeast Texas and in the Houston area by maybe 2 to 4 a.m. Thursday morning. Still could have pockets of small hail, pocket change size hail, gusty winds, heavy rain with that. The overall tornado threat through the remainder of the afternoon and evening is on the low end. Simply put, the line of storms that has continued moving through this northeast Texas this morning wiped out the prime ingredients. So before we were able to get any discrete storms that were able to utilize that environment and become tornadic with baseball-sized hail and, tornadoes, guess what? The line of storms was like, nope, and it came in and wiped it out. So that is why we have not dealt with many tornadoes today. We haven't dealt with baseball-sized hail, and to be perfectly blunt, I'm not sure we're going to. We very well may not. We may just be continuing to deal with what we've dealt with, which is flash flooding, which in itself is quite serious. A lot of roads have remained flooded around North Texas. Streams, creeks are rising quickly. We've got flash flood warnings out now for the Tyler and Gilmer areas in East Texas, Northeast Texas. And storms tonight, well,
A new flash flood warning has been issued for Miller County in Arkansas, Bowie, Cass, Morris, and Upshur County in Texas.
so now a majority of the Arklatex is also under flash flood warning. So that's probably going to be the biggest deal we deal with today. Flash flooding with a lot of flooded roads, rising creeks and streams. I can't say for sure we're not going to have another tornado warning or two going into the next few hours, but the overall threat seems to be on the low side. Storms, yeah, going into the evening, definitely the potential for us to have hail and gusty winds, especially as storms continue to move across I-20 in northeast Texas into Louisiana, and then with some of these storms becoming more vigorous in central Texas this evening as the essentially line of storms continues to move south. So large hail, localized damaging winds, heavy rain and flooding. The tornado threat is not zero, but it's very low at this point, it looks like. So we'll keep an eye on things here at the Texas Storm Chasers, but frankly at this point, I'm thinking what we're going to do is we're just going to push everyone over to our live 24/7 Texas Weather Center live stream. You're going to get to keep watching radar. You're going to get to keep watching the storms with music and audible warnings. But at this point, I'm just not sure we're going to have any more tornado warnings today. We'll see. But that definitely doesn't mean the risk is over. It just means we're looking pretty good right now. Could that change? Oh, yes. And we'll be here to monitor things. And if we have new tornado warnings, we'll definitely be back. But for now, we're going to go ahead and take a break, let y'all listen to some music, jam it out, and we'll keep an eye on the sky. And you can do the same with the free Texas Storm Chasers interactive weather radar on our website, texasstormchasers.com/radar. We've got weather blogs and videos on our website as well. And you can get all that in our free Texas Storm Chasers mobile app. Just search for Texas Storm Chasers where you download apps for your device. And by the way, if you want merch, we got that too. Just search for the Texas Storm Chasers store or go to our website, click store, texasstormchasers.store in your web browser. We got stickers, we got merch, we got all that stuff. So with that, hopefully y'all don't have to hear from me again in a live stream, but just in case, we'll be back later on if needed. Otherwise, we'll keep you updated with frequent updates on the social media channels. Y'all have a good afternoon. God bless.